Okay, I'm continuing the discussion of the semantic representations, and today I'd like to talk about relations. This is perhaps the second most complicated part of our semantic representations. So again, we want to look at the ontology. So we go to the menu item, Ontology and Lexicon, at the upper left of the screen. Go to Ontology, and then let's go over to the right down to 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth one, source relations and target add positions. Now, an add position, as I said earlier, is a more general term referring to the kind of thing in English we call prepositions. So you can say in the house, after that time. So we use prepositions in and at to represent those concepts. But add position is a more general term. And in terms of a meaning, we're talking about relations. We're relating one thing to another thing. And there are basically two kinds of relations for most of these concepts. One modifies a noun. So let's look at after. So first of all, I'm going to look at the second concept for after. That's the one with the letter B, as in Bravo, in the second column. And then when I put the mouse over that, it says the definition is the time following, used only in NPs. That means noun phrases. So we can get examples of that if we do a right click and then pick edit this concept's collocation correction rule, show all occurrences. Okay, so here in the second column it says it's not there. Bad example. Okay, so the second one, okay, in the last sentence in the second box it say, I'll destroy these people after 120 years. So there you're using after with a noun, which is years, modified by 120. Okay, the first A, as in alpha, sense for after, if you put the mouse over that, the white box comes up and it says the time following an event, after Mary read this book. So, I'm going to switch to Word here to show you some examples. So that example is like this, left bracket, after Paul saw Mary, right bracket, Paul taught the people about God. So this is an event-like subordinate clause, and it's modifying the event that Paul taught. And so this uses that first sense of after, which modifies an event, Paul seeing Mary. In the second example, you have the form of after that modifies a noun. After that day, Paul taught the people about God. So let's switch back to the program. And I'm going to point out something here that shows you have to be careful. When you see source concepts in the ontology here, they might not mean what you think they mean. So here I see against. So I would normally think that that meant like David is fighting against the Philistines, or the Pharisees were against Jesus. But actually, if you look at the definition, if I put the mouse over the letter A, it says one thing is next to and touching something else. John leaned against the wall. So, looking at an example, we can say the sword lay against the fence. But we cannot say the religious leaders were against Jesus, because we don't have that sense of against in the ontology. We can express this in different ways. That army fought the army of Israel. That means it's fighting against the army of Israel. Paul argued with those people. The Pharisees hated Jesus. You can say something like that. But right now we can't use against in that sense, modifying a noun. Okay, there are a number of very useful event-like relations. One of them is because. So the ones I'm mentioning now, I use over and over and over again. So because can describe why something happens. Because John saw Mary, John, I should have said, left the house. Okay, so that is this A sense. The following event is the reason for the preceding event. Okay, so that modifies an event. There's another sense of because that modifies a noun. So we have these two senses of because. So we can say, because of David, Saul defeated the army of Philistia. And here I note that I said, I didn't say the Philistine army. We try to use the simplest terms possible. So we prefer army of Philistia. Another one we use often is if. So if you people paren, obey God, you people paren will be happy. Another event relation is just like. Actually, it's probably okay to write it the way I did, but I usually write it just hyphen like. John ate that bread just like animals eat food. Now we can also say that something is like something. And in the phase 1 semantic representations, we can say John is like Paul. But we don't have a relation like. When the analyzer sees that, it converts it to this. It converts it to a form of the verb to be. So we have a form of be, which means to be like something. So it will turn it into John is like, be like Paul in the phase 2 semantic representations. Two other event relations that I use all the time, very helpful, so that something would happen or so that something could happen. The king killed the people so that those people would not fight that king. So you can write the phase 1 representation just like this, and when you use the analyzer, it should convert it. The king built a road so that the people could walk quickly from one city to another city. Okay, now if we go back to the ontology and I go up to the top, you'll see some concepts here that don't look like words. So for instance, begin seen, generic genitive is expressing the idea of something, or body part, like that man's arm. A lot of these things will happen, will be inserted automatically. For instance, a body part, if you say John's arm, I think that the analyzer can automatically figure out that that's a body part. In other cases, it won't do it correctly and you're going to have to correct it in phase 2. But several of these, if we write it in a different way than you might ordinarily write it, it'll come out correctly when you convert from phase 1 to phase 2. So for begin scene, we express that idea by saying one day. So one day introduces a new part of the story. One day, Moses saw a man that was hitting another man. Okay, iteration. That means that something is done more than one time. We can do that by using a hyphen iteration and then the number of times. Moses hit the rock, hyphen iteration, 3 times. Quantity. We express that with dash quantity. That man had wheat, dash quantity, 3 liters. And this is another point. Notice that I'm using liters. In the semantic representations, we use the metric system for measures, since metric system is used throughout most of the world. And then name. So we can say a man named Moses led the people of Israel. And that tells us that the name of the man is Moses. Okay, well that's enough about relations today, and we'll talk about some of the other source concepts tomorrow.